Good evening. It's May 31st, the last day of May for the Alan Osborne Show. We're going to be covering the 28th BCC meeting and some other things tonight on tonight's show. And it's taken me a few days because I had some technical difficulties. Mainly, I was just tired as hell. And, it does take a little bit of effort to make these shows. But we'll get into it. It's the last day of May. You can't make this shit up. Okay, we're full on into election season, and so we'll start off with what happened first. At first, there was a county special meeting, and I'm not going to get into it. It's got its own video on YouTube to look for the county attorney. But what's untelling about the video is this. The announcement for it, I understand legally they had it in the newspaper in Defuniak, but it did not make the online county calendar until 44 minutes before the meeting. A lot of us got the alert it had been added. Now the staff was apologetic about it and nice and told us, yep, that's right, it was a mistake. That shouldn't have happened. But here's the thing. Clay and the elected officials knew there was a problem with that announcement, but they just went on with it because it didn't matter that the public knew. That's how I took it. Clay thought it was legally sufficient, so he didn't give a damn if the public knew or not. That's just about Clay. So and I'll tell you, when I got the alert, I threw down what I was doing and rolled up to the meeting. And when I walked through the door, there wasn't but about 4 or 5 people that weren't part of the county staff at the meeting. And we even said out loud, we didn't know. In fact, they were already to public comments, and it was pretty much over. And there was more law enforcement there to watch the public, and I'll go into that in a minute. There was more law enforcement there than it may have been a 1-to-1 ratio. Boy, the citizens must be dangerous in this town. So anyway, so the thing that was advertised in the newspaper but not put online until it was about to start. Anyway, they went on with that, and you ain't going to get a new county attorney till after the election. It ain't going to happen because Tony ain't going to let it happen. Tony's not going to let Matt Carpenter get fired. Tony's not going to let Brad hire an assistant. Tony threw Donna out of her rightful position as the chair. She was the vice chair when Boots quit. He quit because he got mad. Remember that? Tony wanted to be in the driver's seat this year, and it's all about the controlling the information that the public gets. Because remember, Tony never wanted Clay, but now he can't live without him. So there's something going on with the county attorney, but it won't be much. And moving forward with that, so then we get into the county meeting. I want to talk about something. Before the county meeting, I was there early, so I got to watch what was going on. Let me tell you how many law enforcement personnel were there. First, we had Audie Rao show up there. I don't know what the hell Audie's like the chief of operations, like some major or something. He's one of the main guys for old Fat Mikey. Audie's down there at a public meeting of citizens. Now, he's like number 2 guy for legal stuff. Well, the BCC people just walked in and broke a judge's order. I don't think they went through, I didn't see any of them go through the metal detectors. Did you notice that, Aldi? But even, so we got one of the number 2 guys from Mikey's office there. Before the meeting, he's up there shaking hands with Danny and walking around and talking to all the BCC like they wanted him there. At least Danny did. Danny's down there shaking Bobby Hoke's hand. We know what Bobby's done, and the lawsuits has come from that. So we got Rao, we got a lieutenant in the upper left-hand corner. We got Sergeant Bobby Hoke sitting there with one of the county employees in the minutes section. We've got a guy on the x-ray machine. We've got Audie right there in the entranceway. And we got the Roman goon who always stares people down, another deputy roaming around who said those false statements in the investigation about Boots. Yeah, you did. And so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It takes 5 cops to run a county BCC meeting. And let me tell you something. There's probably not many citizens that have been to more public meetings. I mean, there's a few for sure. But I have never seen, other than a woman in a copper hat, really get out of hand. and she weighed about 98 pounds, and I think any deputy could have dealt with that. So why the intimidation? Why are they there to stare anybody down who has an opposition to what's going on in the county? I've never seen such a bunch of goons. It's ridiculous that it takes 5 deputies and it used to take one for years and years and years and years. We had 1 deputy there. Now we got 5, and one of them's like Mikey's one of his number 2 guys, head of law enforcement. Something don't smell right there, and it's sure no wonder some of the citizens cried from the intimidation that they felt. Think about that. How'd you like to feel intimidated by the cops and your elected officials? Smells like Democrat shit to me. So I don't know. So let's move on to the meeting and talk about that. So we get into a beach ordinance meeting, and that's not going to be the subject of this show. But that thing was moved, and there was a lot of issues with that. But that was a pretty good meeting. But basically, it was a thing on what are the ordinances, how we're going to live, and there were some good beach vendors that showed up. Said, "Look, we want to follow the rules. We don't want the public upset with us." But the problem is, those few people who come are the rule followers, and these people point out that there's hundreds of vendors out there now doing what a few vendors used to do. So why are they issuing that many vendor permits? And how are they enforcing that, like these people said? So other people have been doing a long time. Their whole lifestyle could be depend on this business. But here's the thing. Those people actually believe that the county is going to pass a code that's going to help them. And here's the problem. And I say it in my meeting, I'm going to let my own words speak for themselves. So we'll start off the meeting with what I said about the beach thing, and then we're going to get into some stuff with Danny Glidewell. So here we go. So here we are after the beach ordinance, and you got to listen closely because the county keeps the audio levels as low as possible. So we can't evaluate their performance here very well. But I'm going to come to the front, and I'm going to say it like it is. Most of all this stuff that we go to about solutions is just freaking eyewash. Eyewash is what we call something in the military of something we did just so the public or some general thought we were doing what we were supposed to. And most of the time we had stuff to do, but this eyewash became more important and everybody believed it. It was eyewash. They're not going to enforce most of the ordinances, and if the staff has made a mistake, they're not going to discuss it. They're going to take your money and defend their mistake instead of admitting it. And that bald-headed attorney they're paying $1 million a year almost is going to help them do it. So listen to these words carefully, BCC, of what I tell you. Listen to this crazy fella. It goes back to this. The system is only as fair as you hold it accountable. And I think the system is only as fair as you hold it accountable to. Somebody sent me that quote after watching that meeting and said, "You said this. It was the most important thing," and they're right. Everything I've ever stood up there to in front of the BCC where they were mad at, they struggled to hold people accountable, even themselves. They have no problem issuing fines and making up phony baloney stuff like they did with and harassing people like the horsepower pavilion. But the system, the thing that we hope is fair, because the world's not fair. And that's why the government, the people need a fair system, because we're a capitalistic country and you can shut somebody down if you want to. That's called business. But we're supposed to have an even keel in front of our own tax money. Remember, we don't want to pay that money. We're legally obligated to pay that money. And these are the people we've elected to manage for local government our worlds that we live in. So there's two sets of obligations, but we are the boss, and it's only as accountable as these people make it. Back there, we got this fella's name. We've been doing it a long time. I'll tell you what's a common thread in here is when you have a meeting and there's a problem, all the people who are following the rules show up and say, "Hey, I want to follow the rules." That guy that was he said he started this a long time ago, and now he says there's hundreds and hundreds of people doing it. Y'all need to learn how to do a word that you should have done a long time ago. It's called moratorium. Moratorium.
And don't issue new permits for stuff or resources overloaded. Because this code problem and the enforcement of everything in this county is the root of all evil.
Preach it, brother.
It's a lack of standards of accountability. And like I said, the problems that this board faces almost every single meeting has something to do with accountability. So until you fix this accountability, expect the system to remain unfair. Expect somebody to endanger their livelihood by the deeds of those who aren't standing here to answer for it. And then you create a further problem. You know you don't got enough beach. You know you don't have enough beach access. You say it every meeting. So why in the world are y'all sitting there and not saying no more vendors? You don't have to throw out any of the ones you got. But some of these vendors are clearly hurting the guys that are good vendors back here trying to follow the rules. I'd be snatching their permits if I was in a position of authority. People who fail to follow the requirements of law should be punished for it. And this board, in my opinion, has a serious issue in this county enforcing code and standards. In fact, you have a broken process for it. I can't even come up here and talk about it. Somebody saying, "Oh, we can't do that." But your process is broken. Your enforcement is broken. You should learn to say the word moratorium. When you don't have the resources, and y'all aren't God and can't create more land and beach, maybe you can pump it temporarily with some sand.
Amen.
But you're out of resources and you're lacking accountability. You can't fix the resources, but you can fix accountability, and I suggest you start there.
Okay. So I just told them, this is the thing I've said. I've been to hundreds of meetings. And this board and the previous couple of boards have been plagued by their too good of friends. It's too good old boy system. I know him, so the rules are played different. And you're going to see that play out. So let me set the stage now. So we're going to skip through some things. There's going to be another beach ordinance meeting. It's either June 3rd or June 20th. Hold on, what did they say? They changed it around a couple times. God hope the county calendar will be correct. But we're going to move on to something else. And let me set the stage here. So Danny's motion fails for a lack of a second. I'm going to have to go back and go over this again. Hold on. Okay, I may have forgot to hit play on part of it, so you may have to listen twice trying to edit this. So Danny's going to propose that these people from the Muskegon Nation, they got some land they want the county to have. And the short thicket is, Danny knows that we gave it to these people to be preserved, and it is preserved. In fact, it's preserved inside the Sandestin DRI, but we're not supposed to talk about that because it could lead to litigation. But we can talk about it enough that Danny can propose to buy $6.5 million of Sandestin's open space. Is Sandestin going to give us an interest to go use it? I mean, you can't make this shit up. And listen to this, folks. We gave it to this woman for $100 and the Muskegon Nation to be preserved. It's their ancient burial grounds. She'll go on to say that she don't even go down there and don't care about it. And we gave it to them for $100. So listen to Danny Glidewell. Listen.
Approached me about the property they own and back by the road there.
Yeah, but not Donna. Let's kick back Danny.
The county received this property several years ago from Sandestin.
Look, watch this woman's body language. Watch Danny.
The county received this property from Sandestin several years ago, and then subsequently deeded it to the Muscogee Nation.
Now, if I left this out, there's a whole Indian delegation, including the guy who claims to be the big chief, who wants this woman arrested later. I don't know if you'll see this. Tony knows the wheels are coming off the bus. Look at Tony's scratching his head. Boots has no idea what was going on. Brad must know this is a scam, and Donna's digging for some papers. So keep on going, Danny.
For an Indian burial slash museum.
So Danny claims that these people were given this land for a burial slash museum. Now, I've never seen anything about the archaeological site that's fenced off, as later admitted by them, that's described in the Sandestin DRI. But surprisingly, this fenced off area in Sandestin is also part of you Sandestin residents' open space for you to recreate in. Now, who did that? Matt Carpenter. This is the kind of stuff that the staff approves. So your recreational land is this Indian burial ground that this woman now wants to sell. And Danny thinks there's going to be a museum there. Now, this woman's credibility after the meeting is questioned, and so is Big Chief's. So we don't know what's going on, but Tony recognizes one of them is Big Chief as an elected official. And watch, this woman's time is never started. She's allowed to come up there. It's scripted by Danny. And why didn't she talk to Donna that's in her district? This is out of left field, and Danny wants to give authority for Stan to go negotiate and buy it. So watch how this shit goes down.
The nation owns the property.
We gave it to him for $100.
Desire to sell the property. It's been on the market for several months. They just lowered the price, and
Woohoo!
they told made this request to me that they wish for the county to own the property, which would require us to buy it.
Did you see that head nod? Oh yeah, we wish for you to own it.
I think the question today is to give Mr. Sunday the authority to negotiate with Ms. Tucker and to arrive at a sales contract.
And then,
And also for Mr. Atkinson to provide the board with a thorough history of the property and the title and what actually could be done with it. So I make that a motion.
okay, stop right there. So out of the gate, Danny has this whole thing scripted. They're already ready to pass it off to Stan. It's in the Sandestin DRI. Danny doesn't mention that. He doesn't mention how much they've got it listed for. He just wants it kind of glazed over. This is Mr. 1% sales tax, Danny Liedwell. He just wants it glazed over, and he wants to give Stan, who him and Tony can pressure. And Tony went to school with this woman's mama. That was his teacher, is what he says. And say hello to her. So watch this thing. And Boots is shocked that Danny's made this motion with no discussion. And there's no discussed price. Now, Clay says you can't discuss anything about the Sandestin DRI that might lead to litigation. Well, this is in the Sandestin DRI, and Danny doesn't even say so. Clay knows it is. They all know it is. So how come you can discuss spending $6.5 million, but you can't discuss whether your code enforcement will enforce the law? This goes back to the beginning of the show, and your system is only as good as you hold it accountable for. And this is the system you got. This is an example of what I call running with scissors. Go ahead now, watch this. They're going to start asking. There's not even a second for this at first. Watch. Boots is going to save him. Boots saves him. Now Danny rocks back. The plan's in motion.
First of all, this plea to Commissioner
Yes, the volume's all the way up, people.
was in 1987 was given to Walton County by Sandestin, Peter Boss. Yes. And then in 1989,
because it was a burial ground.
Tribe of Eastern Creek Indians. Yes, and then 2006 they gave it to your tribe, Mesquite.
Well, we are the same people.
Okay. Well, according
We
to the
simply
document,
changed our name.
it was
Yes.
changed
Yes.
according to the property appraisal. So, and that property was given to you all by Walton County for, I believe, $100 back in the day. And so
We got to it by a G.
right. So we owned the property and we gave it to you all.
Sold it
mistaken, you put a tower on the property?
We have one cell tower on the property that if we divest ourselves of the property, that cell tower becomes, and I don't know what the county wishes to do with that. That's part of the contract and the lease. We made sure that the cell tower looked like a tree. We did.
Listen to this. So what she says later, she didn't care about it. So the Indians were giving this to this woman, and they changed her name, but she admits she's the same person. They were given this to preserve it, and she's rented a cell tower that she says y'all can tear it down and end the lease if you give me what she's saying is you give me $6.5 million. And she was adamant to let Miss Johns know that the county sold it to her. Yeah, for $100. That's like one of those gift type things where there's just an amount like $10. You want $6.5 million for it. You've been renting it out at $100. How much rent have y'all collected off this? And she justifies the cell tower by saying we made sure it looked like a tree. Well, the 4,000-year-old ancestors will certainly be happy with that. She goes on to say that Mac and them signed off a water tower being built on part of it too. So what damn difference does it make? Really, basically. So here we go.
Not wanted invasive. If I may talk to the board for a second and to the people here.
So listen, board and people of this county, I'm not on a timer. Tony's breaking policy. No other people get this kind. Evidently, the Walton County policy is Muskogee Creek Nation, Big Chief, and whatever she is stands with a sandwich. I don't know. what kind of bullshit they're selling here? But it's white man snake water. Don't drink it. Lord, what kind of crap is this? She actually is going to stand up there, and she knows it's a scam, in my opinion, and she's proud of it. And Danny is all in this for some political reason. Now watch this thing come apart. This woman ought to be ashamed of herself. You've got a historic property, and the county should have given it to your people. But I don't think, if I was your people, I'd wonder how you were managing my historic burial grounds that you've rented a sales tower to. Somebody built a water tower on. Did you file a complaint as the custodian? Did you tell the people, the county? No, you were leasing it out for cell phone towers. This is the kind of horrible stuff that gives organizations a bad name. Look, if that was an ancient cemetery, for anybody listening to this, whatever denomination, whatever background you are, or if you were just a Heinz 57 like me and didn't have some great DNA, wherever the dead people in your past lay, would you want a museum in Walking Park? I just, would you want cell towers in the graveyard? What she's done, here we go.
Making this decision was not easy for us. This is the only asset that we have.
Making this decision to sell you something for millions that you gave us for $100 was not easy for us.
But from our standpoint, and I'm here on behalf of the tribal council, from our standpoint, the reasons that we came to this both have changed. Because we came for medicine, and we came for healing, and we came for shells for a grave. And a lot of this has changed, and change is a part of human nature, and you can't do anything about the fact that things change.
So she says because she don't go to the Gulf, and that her people once did, because she didn't go there for shells for graveyards, and she didn't go there for medicine. What if she goes to Sacred Heart Hospital? It's on. If they should have asked her, have you ever been to Sacred Heart? Because then she'd have went to Mac Bayou for medicine. Hell, that was pretty traditional. I mean, I just want to laugh at this. She actually believes by using keywords and saying all this stuff and showing up in her Muskogee Nation t-shirt that somehow this is going to legitimize this shit show that's going down on the taxpayers. Go ahead.
But for us, what we want to see is this place that is pristine, and I do mean pristine.
Yeah, it's fenced off.
It has native vegetation. It's never been tampered with. And it had shelled mounds on it that were 4,000.
But wait, never been tampered with. We'll find out later that we're still trying to find out that somebody may have received a BP oil spill grant for $500,000 to raise a micro farm of vegetables on it. We just don't know if it was paid out yet, but we're looking into that too.
For some people, they seem to believe that there's bodies underneath these mounds. They are mistaken. We have had 2 archaeological studies done, including a complete report by Elizabeth Fisher and Jim Bell. The only bodies on it are 2 small parts that we aired ourselves when we were the repatriation tribe from North Florida. After NAGPRA, we lost that ability.
So she freely admits that other people have been transferred there to be buried while it was in her custodian, but she's sure nobody else was buried there in all those mounds 4,000 years ago. She's positive. She's positive about it, and that's why she wants $6.5 million for it.
We want to sell this for the county to make reserve. There is a place and a time that people need something for themselves, a place that they can walk and learn and just be in what there was before everything changed.
So she's telling the museum that the county's going to buy into the sand. She never even tells them. She probably didn't know till this meeting where I stand up and let them all know that she's asking the county to buy 16 or 13, I believe it's 13 acres of open space within the Sandestin DRI that, oh, by the way, she admits she's buried some repatriated ancient Indian remains there. But we should build a park and walk through it. Can you make this shit up? Ungodly stuff these people do. This is a scam. And people ought to be mad about this. I'm getting me a t-shirt and say, hey, I don't really care about this, but you should buy it and preserve it. But we don't care about it. And why does she think that we all should go to, if we're not part of the, let's just say I'm not part of the Muscogee Nation of people. So why would I want to go visit this, she says, pristine area? Yeah, it's fenced off. Visit this area where you said it has no importance to you, and you claim to be a high leader as a representative of the original people. I can't swallow that any better than I can swallow Bidenomics. It costs more to eat these days. Evidently, she's got plenty of money.
And that's our purpose. I've had numerous offers for this property. I have not entertained them.
I have not entertained them because they couldn't be closed. And people, I wanted the big money from the county. I've had numerous offers on this property. Okay, BCC, make her produce those offers. Did she lie in this public meeting for Danny? She said she's had numerous offers. What were they?
I've been waiting and hoping that the county wants to do something for the people, because I want this to belong to them. And I think
listen, it belongs to your people right now. We gave it to you. We're happy you have it. There's people in the audience that'll stand up that are ecstatic that it was in the care of the Indian tribes. But this woman wants it to have people walking through it in a park, and Danny wants a museum. You can't make this shit up, but you can put it in the Sandestin DRI. That's what the county needs to do. Jump back in the middle of that. It doesn't even have any entitlements. She said, admits herself it has no access. It's to go through the most dangerous S-curve. It's right in the middle of the S-curve on Mac Bayou Road. That's where we need. So she later says she's going to preserve it for traffic. I mean, you might want to preserve something. Well, won't that be wonderful to change an S-curve where there's nothing now but a fenced-off ancient burial site and turn it in a museum and walkway so we can have cars proceeding straight in the S-curve intersection? How wonderful. Danny, did you go to planning, Commissioner Dumbass Liedwell? Did you go to planning and ask them about this before you try to make a motion to the other commissioners? Or is that day-to-day business in Donna's district? Did you ask anybody, did this pass the smell test and what could this land be used for? No. You're going to bring it up in a motion. Keep on going, woman.
the tribal government would stand here with me and say that's our purpose. If there are any federal tribes that ask questions, and they may, we'll be glad to talk to them. I have no problem with the direction that we're going and the reason that we're going there. It's approximately 1 1/2 acre that has 2 mounds, substantial, and under all of your houses, we know what's under ours. And we will be glad to work with Stan and Mr. Anderson on anything they need to know about this. And that's all I have to say. If you have any questions, please.
No.
She looks back to the people that are orchestrating this on her side. She got some man with her, and they said her husband. He gets all smart mouthed about it. And you know, I don't this ponytail man running through there like we believe this absolute horse shit upon the taxpayers. I have never seen such a spectacle. If you could only had a camera in the audience, you'd have known what a shit show this was. Look at Glidewell. He's shit pants.
Help you.
I'm going to make some comments. So thank you. Go ahead, Nancy.
Yeah, you haven't been on a timer like anybody else.
Are there any deed restrictions or stipulations?
There was, at one point, it was considered an archaeological preserve.
That is the original deed restriction that is existing.
At one point, it was an archaeological preserve as part of the Sandestin DRI, but we don't enforce that. So this woman's decided on her own that doesn't happen. Ask her what ordinance declared that the Indian burial mounds were no longer an archaeological site within the Sandestin DRI. What a crock. This woman knows nothing about it.
Deeded it to the county originally, and it specifically indicates grantee of Malone County shall use the land only for the purposes of an archaeological preserve. The county imposed additional restrictions.
Listen to that. So Clay just made Danny a liar. Danny said it was an archaeological preserve and museum, and I said there was no words to that effect. And here Clay says they can only use it that way. So it's now an the bottom line is it's right now an archaeological preserve in the hands of some supposedly credible Indian tribe. And hopefully it's the right people within the tribe. The tribe's credible. We just don't know if these people are really leaders in it or not. What I heard after the meeting, you know, I don't know what their position is. But Clay just says it's to be preserved, and it already is. So, Danny, dumbass, why would we spend $6.5 million on it?
To the tribe as part of its grant.
And this was before my time. This was with our past chairman named Don Sherman. What happened?
So she says, this was before I know anything about it, and I still don't. But by gosh, since I don't know about it, it's not true. So.
That I understand now from, we have a board certified archaeologist on tribal council, was when the water tower went up for Sandestin, it is within a distance from those mounds.
So what she's saying is, hey, look, the county in Sandestin broke all these rules. So since they did that, we've declared that our rules don't matter anyway. Now here's your land back. Give me $6.5 million.
That it negates it as an archaeological preserve.
So the dead people disappeared because Sandestin and the county built a tower.
With it being designated an archaeological preserve. I can give you all that information when I leave the Senate.
I have a copy of the official records, and it states on here that the sum of $10 and other variable consideration received sufficiency, which are hereby acknowledged as granted, bargained, and sold to grantee, its successors, and assigned favor, that real property more particularly described in the attachment, which is that property. It says taxes accruing after December 31st of 1986. The grantee shall use the land only for the purposes of an archaeological preserve. The purposes include, but are not limited to, preservation of archaeological and burial sites, creation and maintenance of a Native American village, a museum, a craft shop, Native American Indian Education Center, tribal ceremonial grounds, and necessary administrative and residential custodial accommodations. All of the above shall be in keeping with the surrounding improved areas in layout, design, and maintenance. And it goes on to say, no bingo games or other commercial gaming activities shall be carried on. Grantees shall comply with all appropriate laws and government regulations. And grantor does hereby fully warrant the title to said land and will defend the same against the lawful claim.
Watch Danny. He hates this.
So it's very specific what this property can be used
And that's what she's been marketing it as. And I told the county this months ago, and Mac just ignored it. I stood up in a meeting and said, John Paul Summers has got property for sale on the historical mound. And nobody cared. Danny don't give a shit. He's out there buying political power and going to take your money and buy it. And Clay and Donna just pointed out that it's already being used for the specific restrictions it has. But this woman doesn't see it that way. She thinks that we should do this because it's the right thing to do to help her achieve her objectives. You've got to be kidding.
We're not doing a big development on that
So
property.
it would be basically preserved in the.
Listen, this woman interrupts Miss Johns every chance she gets. Danny's sitting there dejected. Brad is probably bewildered at this proposal. Boots is confused. And Tony's mad because he knows Big Mama's mama was his teacher, and he's going to give her. But she's not. She don't want to hear what Donna Johns has to say, and it's in Donna's district. She says there's not going to be a big development on it. But listen, woman, if you had sold it, John Paul Summers had sold it like you said, or somebody sold it to some developer, you don't get a vote. It's not yours anymore. You don't know that. What a stupid. This woman has no clue. She's there to get a bunch of money for some land, as she says, that she don't care about.
State that it's in that,
That is what we want done with the property.
and that's all that can be done.
That's what we want done with the property. And we've held it for, what, 40 years, 30, 40 years? And we can just keep holding on to the property. If we come to mind to this.
Okay. So she says this should be the end of it. Danny shouldn't have made the motion because this woman's already said we'll just keep holding on to it for nothing, doing what we're supposed to. We should have ended this mess right here, but it's going to turn into even bigger shit show than that. Watch this.
If it's not interested, I understand that. But the tribe would put that money back into the road infrastructure. And I believe that we would do some of the things that we should do. Tribal government has an obligation to help close services and emergency services.
So somehow this woman has decided that tribal obligations for health service and emergency services means that they should sell their ancient tribal grounds to the county to preserve them at a cost of millions when they're already been preserved at a cost of almost nothing. And it's Sandestin's DRI open space. County should get involved in that. Oh, and there's a policy. Clay, how come you're not saying we can't discuss this? Because that might lead to non-compliance in Sandestin if they do something with this open space. And isn't that part of the litigation, non-compliance, Clay? How come they can talk about it, but nobody else can?
And that's more what we're looking at, the purpose of this is. So, I don't know if you're thinking, oh, everybody gets a chunk of change and they all run around. We're not.
No, I'm thinking,
exactly
what I'm
She's
thinking is that we don't have.
Donna doesn't say anything about this. There hasn't been a number thrown on the table, and this woman's already defending herself that nobody's putting any money in their pockets. Well, who brought that up? Why does this woman feel the need to bring up that accusation that nobody's made while she's asking for all this, for millions for this $100 property?
To buy it, to keep it preserved.
No, you don't. It can be preserved and we continue to own it until the day comes that we do find the one who is willing to buy it. And if it's someone on the tribe, that's fine. If it's Big Nation, it doesn't matter to us. Our concern is caring for our council house. You've never been there. It was built in 1880.
So she's going to go tell her why they don't give a damn about this property. They just want somebody to buy it. They just want their council house fixed. And this is how she's going to do it.
It was a part of the CCC programs for Franklin Roosevelt. And it is one of the only structures in North Florida that is a 4-room schoolhouse. My mother is 100 years old, and she was its last principal. And that is an historic property.
Danny's crapping himself. This has gone way off the rails for him.
Which is Cracker House, which is the first settlers So that's where it is, and it will be up to you. I hope that it will be a good decision. I think that this is a workable win-win situation, and I hope the county can get it in the same way. And I want to hope that the people.
She believes that it's a win for the taxpayers to pay millions for this lot to be preserved the way it is right now, that we gave them to it because that's what they wanted. She believes that's a win for you, the taxpayers, oh, and so does Danny, evidently.
The county would be happy as well.
What would a potential buyer use this for? If it's,
I really don't know, because the potential buyer across the street just put 35 new housing units in, and he's in the same area.
So that was D.R. Horton. She says she doesn't know. She didn't even know it was in the DRI. She doesn't even know what DRI means. And so she don't care. She's already said their tribal house is falling down, and she's going to find a way to fix it. Now, aren't you listening, Mr. Drake?
I'd like it to be conservation. That's what I'd like.
Let's let Ms.
May I, please?
Yeah, let's let Ms. Denson answer the questions and ask the board any other questions.
yeah, I have some questions.
This woman has broke, according to Tony's policy, you can't just wander around back and forth and come up. And he even offered to let her ask questions of the board. Now, how come we can't talk? We can't talk, but we're going to buy $6.5 million. We can't talk about Sandestin, but we're going to approve hotels. Doug Law's catfish are 1,000 times over poisoned, and you just can't make this up about Sandestin. But go ahead, let's see what else you said.
What is the value of this land?
How much is it worth?
Well, you know, I guess land is valued at what you want for it. I mean, I've
Yeah.
seen outrageous things go
It's what she wants for it.
Purpose and the prices of land. One of the things that has had the tribe concerned, to be quite honest with you, is that some of our oldest homesteads are being sold now because of the amount of money they're getting to put subdivisions on.
So we're going to do it too.
That was one of the reasons this came up as a subject with the tribal council. It can be anywhere from, it's 13 acres, it's sitting on that value. I've had offers, 8 offers that are well over $6 million. I haven't.
She's had 8 offers for a little over $6 million, but she hasn't sold it. She doesn't know it's in the DRI. Who votes with me that this woman's lying through her teeth about what she's doing and what she knows about this property? She has yet to even know that it has no allocation of assets currently allocated to it in the DRI, because that's open space. There's no houses. And she says because the people across the street built 35 houses, by gosh, it's worth $6.5 million. She knows nothing about this property that she is supposedly the main custodian for historical reasons. Boy, there you go, Glidewell. Write that down in your big historical push of Walton County to try to cover up your bad deeds. Go ahead, woman.
Gone after any of those. There's no, you know, I'm just waiting to see what the county wants to do.
So she admits, and look at Danny's expression. She says she's had lots of offers for over $6 million, but she hasn't entertained them because she was waiting for this opportunity with Danny. You can't make this shit up.
And the commissioner had to have a town hall, and I was really appreciative because he's a historian. And
I want some historical money.
So this subject came up, and I'm really glad it did. Anything else?
She's mad she's been caught.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Pardon me?
Please tell your mother I said hello.
Well, she turned 100, and yeah, it's been really rough lately. But I will tell her. She always mentioned you. She was his 5th grade teacher.
Is there any, or is it state statute, or is there any law that says that those deed restrictions could be lifted at some point?
So Danny wants to buy this burial ground, lift the deed restrictions, pretend it's not in the DRI. He's willing to do anything because he'd already cut this deal. Watch what he asked for.
Or do they expire at some point?
That is a potential thing that I would be glad to research for you in this specific case. Typically, we see
They're still part of the DRI.
we are dealing with restrictions placed on the government. The government accepts property, but I'm glad to look at that. There are a number of broad statutes that deal with deed restrictions, restricted covenants, including the Market Record Title Act and other similar statutes that could come into play in this specific instance.
And the other,
Now later on in the day,
As far as I am aware, it is.
so Clay just admitted that he was aware this was in the DRI. He knows that could lead to non-compliance, but he is willing to talk about it and do research for what he won't let me and Tabitha discuss and other people. Nobody can talk about this. Can't talk about pollution in the bay because it might be tied to Sandestin, but we're approving hotels and now we're going to buy a burial ground in Sandestin. What a double standard. And that woman never had a timer clock.
Offered to the county specifically made reference to covenants, conditions, restrictions in the dedication agreement between Sandestin Corporation and Walton County. So that's an additional document that would need to be reviewed outside of just what are on the records.
How about the ordinance?
just to make it plain.
So he's going to go review this for compliance. I thought you can't talk about compliance in Sandestin. It's only when it's convenient. This is what I mean. The board has a policy that they apply when it's convenient. That's called selective application of the laws.
We all know that McBow Road is a very constrained road. We all know that there's one way in and one way out. And so I thought that it was at least worth our time and effort to have Mr. Atkins and Mr. Sun explore this. So
let's start. So Danny, nobody is using this property to put traffic on Mac Bayou right now, and nobody can. There's not an entrance there. It's part of Sandestin. Right now, there's 0 cars from that property impacting Mac Bayou. Danny's willing to spend $6.5 million to try to make it impact the bayou and get in the middle of it, but he wouldn't, and the board won't enforce the standards that their ordinance requires of Sandestin and traffic. But he is willing to spend $6.5 million of your money rather than to hold the developers accountable. That's what this election is going to be about, folks.
that we can make sure, make sure that this is not going to be developed, and if there is a possibility it could be developed, that the county get control of it, so that it can't be developed. Because
enforce the DRI, Danny.
Traffic on Bow Road, from everything I've ever heard from anybody who lives up there. So when Miss Tucker and Mr. Tucker offered that they would like to see the county have it, I thought it was at least worth us looking at. So the motion today,
Even though it doesn't affect traffic at all.
today is to have Mr. Sunday and Mr. Atkins explore.
It's part of Sandestin. Y'all can't talk about it. How are you going to take a vote on that?
I mean, if it can't ever be developed now, then we're okay. But if it could be developed,
You know, right now it can't be developed, but Danny just wanted to lift the restrictions so it could be developed. That way they can get a crap load of money for something that was never intended to be given to them for profit. No, you can't make that up either. What an idiot.
$4 million, $6 million, $8 million might be really, really cheap for 13.
Listen to that, folks. 13 acres of graveyard on Mac Bayou Road, $4 million, $6 million, $8 million. I'll buy that for $1, says dumb Danny. Might be real cheap. Might be, because it ain't his money.
All we're talking about today is having Mr. Atkins and Mr. Sunday look at.
That's not what your motion was, Danny.
And bring us back to the floor. That's the motion.
Anybody else?
Yes, I would like to add that, yes, in fact, you did mention that this is part of the SMDRI, and it is, as a matter of fact, the acreage is included in Sandestin's green space. They use that acreage for their green space counting. So that's another issue to be concerned about.
I wasn't real crazy, but I went what happened to all that pass.
Were you on the board with that?
I was on the planning commission.
Any other?
Tony don't want to talk about that because he's the one that started that.
This situation's put me kind of in the middle between conservation and just being financially responsible with the taxpayers' money. The property was given to the tribe to preserve.
Now the tribe don't give a shit about it.
I still don't understand why the purpose, why they're changing purpose. It sounds like just to make money to support part of their program.
Bingo, Boots. You got that one. Good job.
It would be hard pressed for any developer to do anything on this property. So on the side of preserving the property, for conservation and all bells and whistles go with that, it sounds like the instant.
Look how frustrated Danny is.
In the right. So why should the county have to buy it just to preserve it? Give this. And one more question, just having something in my district that involves some potential Indian grounds. The fire department, our new fire department in Choctaw Beach, got laid up for an extra year because it's 2 pieces of pottery. The feds and the state want to dig around out there. So just be mindful when we do, if we buy this property, we decide we want to put a trail or anything we want to do, just put benches out there. If there's going to be a formality with the state and feds.
Boots clearly doesn't understand that property. He looks at Danny like, hey, I tried to save you. And he goes, maybe they have benches and walking trails. What, we're going to walk out of the middle of the S-curve and Mac Bayou Road? Sandestin going to let everybody walk through Sandestin? God almighty.
We can't hear you back there. Alan, you'll be first.
She's allowed to talk from the audience, taunt us.
In answer to any questions that you have archaeologically, we have a board-certified archaeologist on our...
Listen, nobody else gets these kind of privileges that Tony's given his former teacher's daughter. I mean, clearly, nobody gets to do this in front of the BCC. She has no timer. She's just constantly called up there. She's not a citizen request. It's hidden up under Glidewell. And the rules that he's asking to vote on setting this are clearly don't apply to this woman, and she can yell from the audience without being corrected by Tony. Anybody else tries that, you're getting the deputies.
Our council is a state certified, works for the state of Florida. So if you're wondering about what's on that property, we've had one complete archaeological study done. We've had a second archaeological study done because we had to when the water crossed Highway 98 with one of the floods. That's when the mounds were severely disintegrated. And it went across about 10 acres of it. So we've walked that land since the tornadoes and hurricanes came over, and we've checked what we know to be there. It is not burial. It is commitments. Some of them were as old as 4,000 years. Those are what is shown.
Listen, it's already been labeled. She says because this historic flood, and I've been here 30-some years, has suddenly crossed 98. Well, look, this land doesn't border 98. It borders only Mac Bayou Road and then the next thing on the other side of it, I believe, is some roads in Burnt Pine. So she wants you to believe that there was a wave from 98, which is probably a mile and a half away, that I guess it must have wiped out all those other neighborhoods in Sandestin too. But she says it wiped out her burial mounds. Well, how'd the neighborhood south of it survive? The water had to go through there too. Everything she says does not make sense.
It's really much. So there's a lot of oyster shells, and there is some pottery. And that's all it's come from.
She said, oh, there's some oyster shells and pottery, but we didn't find no dead people.
Does the original grantor have any interest in this? Like,
I haven't spoken to Mr. Bosch yet. I don't mind doing that on behalf of to speak to you if I need.
No, sir, there is not a reverter clause. I have looked at the deed. Reverter clauses are something that do expire in the state of Florida under operation law or chapter 69, but they do not as a local government. But the deed restriction placed by the Bosch Trust to the county did not include a reverter clause. Now, he may have an interest in being able to enforce the restricted covenant, which the deed restrictions stating as one thing.
Now, Clay knows that Peter Boss can't enforce any restrictive covenants because he's not in charge of Sandestin, but he'll let this phony baloney concoction. Clay's conflicted on Sandestin, been involved in Sandestin. Peter hadn't been in there since the late 80s, and before Clay had a Juris Doctorate degree. And he knows that Becknell would have to be there, and there's nobody there from Sandestin, so Clay's going to pontificate like we're all idiots. But we know that Boz has been out of Sandestin, and it's had multiple owners since then. Boz has no play in it, and it can't be developed. It's open space in the DRI, as defined by Mr. Anderson.
Archaeological reserve, should that still be valid and not extinguished by mortal? But he would not have an interest in the property. He would simply have standing to enforce the restrictive covenant.
Of which we developed the restrictions originally.
No, he did. He placed the restriction on the law. So you have two different restrictive covenants.
He didn't have a reverter clause. Then I guess
he gave it to the county so he didn't have to pay tax on it, but it counted toward his open space. He got a win-win.
Restrictive covenant can be enforced as long as someone else doesn't also law through HOA document.
He gave it to the county because it was a hot potato. It was an Indian burial ground. Anything that happened to it while it was in his possession could have shut down Sandestin. So he went hot potato, gave it to the county, they fenced it off, and they gave it to the Indians. That's the end of the story. Now let's keep going.
Documents there are a variety of covenants on which deed restrictions can be enforced. The sharpest sword, so to speak, is that reverter clause. If you fail to do this, I can automatically take it back. He did not impose those restrictions, but he did impose the restriction that I read earlier to the county. The county then later turned around when it deeded it to the Florida tribe of Eastern Creek Indians. The Johns was reading from contained the same language, saying we imposed a restriction on them to only use it for the purpose of an archaeological preserve, which was consistent with the original deed restriction.
Notice again, there's nothing about a museum. That's Mr. Historian Danny Glidewell out selling to the Muscogee nations of Florida his historical crap. I'm gonna buy your property for $4 to $6.5 million, and I'm gonna help you preserve it. And now the wheels are flying off the short bus Danny drives around in.
Further, and he defined what those purposes would include but not be limited to, thereby potentially creating a more limited archaeological preserve basis, would be what the implication seems to be. Finding that no bingo games or commercial gaming activities could occur, and that the grantee would comply with all appropriate laws and governmental regulations, which somewhat redundancy, but nonetheless restrictions the county put into effect. When the tribe deeded it from one branch of itself effectively to another, it omitted all of those wordings there.
So listen to this. This woman admitted she used to have a different tribal name. Now Clay says that when the tribe that received it from the county gave it to her new tribal name, which is her giving it to her, She didn't record any of those deed restrictions, so now she has a clean deed, is the way Clay's reading it, and the restrictions just poof went away like magic. We did a restrictions thing and just boop, she got rid of it because she's in charge of the Muskegon Nations of Florida, Walton County property. She's going to preserve it. Poof, all the restrictions that would have preserved it went away.
But nonetheless, the question would be the continued viability of the 1989 documents under the Mark of Record Title Act and underlying statutes. That's what I'm glad to look into for you to determine that it still remain valid. But I do not find there to be any reverter clause in either of those two deeds that would automatically kick into place and create a scenario where the property is returned to the original. Not to us, not to Mr. Bates.
So going back to Moderat's statement, even if they decided to sell the land to a developer or somebody else, because of our position to do that, it would still be kind of semi-controlled.
Only if those have not been extinguished by operation. And that's what I believe I'm being asked to discount.
Right, and another reason to bring that up, and this is part of their search, if it's not developed,
Clay wants them all to shut up. He doesn't want to talk about it. Look at his body language. But Boots and Danny ain't letting it go.
We're not selling it just to do something else. I looked at my value road. I don't know if you guys have looked.
Let me point this out, that Tony lets this woman participate like she's a commissioner. She just jumped in. She jumps in when she wants to. She don't come to meetings, and she wants the board to hear what she wants to talk about, and she's going to put it in the middle of the meeting with no time limits or anything else, and Tony lets this happen. Nobody else gets these privileges. It's special privileges for the elected and connected, and right now she's connected to something that Danny wants to happen.
Traffic down there lately, but I thought maybe you could do something with using the green space. Yes, and you know, the tribe do not down here.
She says it'll help you with your traffic. How? It doesn't create any now. Anything else you do with it will probably create traffic. This woman's an idiot.
No offense, it's beautiful, but we don't have it. And we don't have an interest down here. So
It's beautiful, but we don't come here. She spoke for the whole tribe, and we don't have an interest in it down here. Now, just a minute ago, Danny said the people that brought him this idea was her and her husband. Do those two people speak for the Muskegon Nation of Florida? I don't know. I'm not a Muskegon Indian. I'm a Heinz 57. I can't claim stuff like this. I got too many different ethnic backgrounds in my. I'm a hillbilly. So what's the woman? What is she selling?
I thought this was the best of both ways to work this. We can still go to conservation organizations if that's where it needs to be. But in terms of putting on low-income housing or condominiums or, oh my God, here comes the Indians and there goes the neighborhood.
Now she just tried to pitch to the commissioners, now listen to this, that this is a better idea than having low-income housing or condominiums or, oh my God, here comes the Indians. Now, Clay just said all they have on there is an archaeological site, but she wants the commissioners to think that either the tribe's coming, it's low-income housing, or lots of condominiums, because that's just what she says. I don't know. Hey, Danny, you wish you'd talked to planning now instead of just sitting there looking like you were dejected? Boots is totally confused.
Which was one of the statements that was made about it. That's not going to happen. So I'm just here because I thought I should be, and I wanted to start here in seriousness. I have what my council wants me to do, and all I am is a messenger. The chair of the tribe, I'm just a messenger.
I do appreciate your time being long-winded.
Thank you. And answer any more questions from you?
Not right now.
Thank you.
Boy, she was catering to Tony. Oh, is there anything else I can do to save this? I think we're caught. Look at that look on her face. Oh, crap. All right. What do you got to say about it, wild man? Oh, shit.
For the record, Alan Osborne, I think what you're doing here today is ridiculous. Matter of fact is, who cares what she says across the street, because it's not necessarily right. So that's something else that y'all approved that has nothing to do with this. It lies within the boundaries of the Sandestin DRI and thereby has no entitlements. And it wouldn't matter what Mr. Boss wanted because Mr. Becknell SDI is in control of Sandestin. And so
look at Tony pivot that chair.
It's already has
Danny pivoting too.
because there's anything you do to it now, it's fenced off basically in that curve. Nobody has any access. Nobody's talked about the Indians. In fact, I've been involved and lived on that road for probably 30 years and watched this deal go down where it was given. If you want to give her something for it, and the fact that they listed it, I believe with John Paul Summers, I'm talking to her. I have four. So she was trying.
She tried to interrupt me.
It had no entitlement. It required an NOPC. So to give them anything for it other than $100 is all that they should get for it because they shouldn't be allowed to develop it. I don't think Sandestin is going to give up 13 acres of open space, and if it did, it'd probably put them in non-compliance. Secondly, you'd have to have an NOPC to remove that land from there, and in the original application for development approval signed by Mr. Boss back in the day, they said that was going to be an archaeological site.
Damn the
facts.
facts.
This woman says she knows they went in there and violated and built a water tower. Why weren't they in there asking for enforcement of that? And why did the county let Sandestin get away with building a water tower in an archaeological site? These are the questions that come to mind to me. So the whole time I've ever lived out there, and if you've ever read the book 4 Mile Point, there'll be a discussion. And somebody brought up the pottery. There's pottery all over my old neighbor's lot. Doug Chisholm, I believe the Indians dried mullet and caught shellfish there. In fact, Sandestin was suitable for shellfish harvest probably till about 2004. I think this is nothing more than a scam to make us taxpayers millions of dollars for land that we gave them to preserve their heritage. And if she said that she don't care about down here, then just the county should just keep it and leave it as it is. I don't believe that archaeologist has dug up all that, and they know what's under the ground. Probably if there were bodies 4,000 years ago, they've long disintegrated. But I wouldn't dig up somebody else's cemetery any more than I would the Muscogee Nation. It's been that way and labeled on a development order that's gone through hearings and to $4 million is a crime, in my opinion. Yes, ma'am.
Now watch, this woman's legitimate. She's upset with what they're doing. She knows this is greed. Now Tony, how come this woman, who's from the same Muscogee Nation and claims to be a part of the same tribes, why does she have a timer on? But the other woman whose mama was your principal or teacher or whatever, maybe she changed her diaper, I don't know. She didn't have a timer. But this woman basically had the same credentials. So here we go.
We're going to listen to.
And Tucker's out there, that Tucker woman who's been talking and walking up there. She's down there taunting the rest of the people in the audience like she's some kind of big shit.
We're not going to have comments from the audience.
Thank you. My name is Danica Lowry. I am a lifelong Panhandle resident, a full-time resident of South Walton County, and today I represent the Muscogee Nation of Northwest Florida.
Listen to this. She's a South Walton resident who represents the Muscogee Nation of Northwest Florida, and she lives not that far from this archaeological site.
I have here that I've handed out to you a copy of an official deed and parcel map stating that this is hallowed ground as an archaeological burial site and should be preserved. It is to my understanding that first, this site is not even in your district, Mr. Glidewell. And second, that this 13 acres was donated to the Florida tribe of Eastern Creek Indians, which is now Muscogee Nation of Florida, by Peter Boss in 1989 under the premise of what would in 1990 be known as the Native American Graves and Repatriation Act, which returned custodianship burial site to the insisting that the sacred...
Now you think about what this young lady's saying. The other lady said, hey, our clubhouse is falling down, our tribal nation headquarters. And this woman recognizes the historical importance of her ancestors' remains. What if people started running through Arlington going, hey, we're putting in development here because you know it got flooded and y'all built that cell tower, so the rules don't matter anymore. But this woman's actually intelligent. Go ahead, young lady.
Land should not even be available for purchase. And the fact that it is, speaks volumes regarding the custodianship abilities of the current deed holder, which is why we at Muskogee Nation of Northwest Florida have alerted our relatives of various federal tribes, including the Seminole Nation and Muskogee Nation of Oklahoma, of the potential...
Danny's pissed.
If Ann Tucker, chairwoman of Muskogee Nation of Florida, wishes to forfeit her custodianship of this tribal land, if she transfers to a relative...
Do you remember when I told you can always tell who's in on it by the pivoting chairs? Boots wasn't really in on this, so he's having to listen. But Tony and Danny are just trying to make it through, so they're having to. Donna knows it's a scam. Boots and Brad are listening, and Tony and Danny are having the chair spin off.
Relative tribe for private and appropriate custodianship of our ancestral lands, the burial mounds, which are Native American artifacts, and our ancestors. Muskogee Nation of Northwest Florida is requesting this custodianship. The Native American Graves and Repatriation Act accepts the principle that Native American people are entitled to the return of their ancestors' remains and the items buried with them. Under this act, Congress has mandated that cultural objects, which are burial mounds with ancestors interred in graves are cultural objects, must be returned to the appropriate tribes when asked for, and that Indian people are not simply objects of anthropological study, but their own cultures and customs that must be afforded the respect we deserve. I know Ms. Tucker said that there's no evidence of...
Well, the other lady said there's no interest in this property.
But I'd be interested in having an archaeological investigation from someone who isn't associated with her tribe to determine whether or not this is accurate. We are asking, with protection of the Native American Graves and Repatriation Act, that this archaeological site never be available for purchase, and instead be transferred to the custodianship of a relative tribe, such as Muskogee Nation of Northwest Florida, in the event that the present custodian no longer wishes to or fails to oversee the appropriate care and customs of this ancestral land.
So in a real nice, non-Alan Osborne way, she says, listen, give us the land and take it from these idiots who are trying to sell it off to do something you're not supposed to do with it, because we'll actually do what the deed restrictions say happily. And she's basically saying, if these people who can't be responsible won't be responsible, you know something, we will be. And in a nutshell, that's what she says.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to take about a 5-minute break.
We're back up here.
A couple of commissioners asked me if we could change the beach ordinance meeting to June the 3rd.
So we went from the 20th to the 3rd, people. It's a trick.
I would ask a motion a second, but we would need to do that after we clear the current motion.
Brad's going to remember that that's what he wanted the first time.
Who's next?
Found out there's a conflict. We'll have to put it out there.
Ms. Ayers?
Wait, that was the date that I originally suggested?
Yes.
That is
Yes. Yes.
We just
You're not part of the club, so we all said no. Now, what's Suzanne think about this Indian thing?
Suzanne Harris. Y'all cannot be spending millions of dollars on buying a piece of property we gave away for $100. These beachfront people that are customary use people, they are going to have a stroke if y'all buy a piece of burial ground. We need parking at the public beach accesses, and we need to be buying beachfront property. That's what the people here want to have. They want a place to go to the beach for the citizens here, not only the tourists that are paying $5,500 a week for a house that now can't go to the beach, We've got to get parking and we've got to buy beach. And to buy an Indian ground for 1 million, 2 million, 4 million, or 6.5, which is what they started out with, we're not the bank. And y'all better really think about this. This is election time, and these people want beach, and they want to be able to park to go to the beach. And I'm gonna tell you,
look at the body language of Tony and Danny.
At a board meeting that I don't even know, I don't have a dog in this hunt, but looks over at us and says what she said before she ever came to the podium.
She was threatening them.
Next time, Tony, I will stop the meeting.
The people were threatening the people that are speaking out about it.
Yeah, please state your name and spell your last name.
My name is Diane Farrell, F-E-R-R-E-L-L.
Get them, Diane.
I've been an environmental scientist, planner for, well, I'm 66 years old. It was my only career. I've never seen an atrocity like this, where you have a designated conservation easement. Who in the world would run a department and not identify where the conservation easements are in the county, where the housing, residential, commercial, industrial, etc., and then allow her to put a cell tower on a conservation easement? First of all, that's a violation. Sure, it sounds to me like there's an arrest should be made here. Okay?
Arrest her.
And she is not a responsible person to have given for $100 13 acres of land that she just wants to dispose of, and then now she wants to sell it for $6 million. That's irresponsible.
Let me clarify. This woman has been doing projects at the state level around places like Disney. She's an educated professional who knows you can't drop off some deed restrictions and then sell it for what you want.
I would want to know who permitted it.
Matt Carpenter.
Permit an area that has human remains. I have contacted SHPO, by the way, this morning. This is what I used to do for a living. I used to write environmental reports. The only career I've had was in the engineering field. Okay? Now, she gets the land for $100. Now she wants to sell it for, there's human remains, all kinds of artifacts. Now she wants to get it sold for $6 million. And you're all even entertaining this? I would, first of all, whoever's approved that cell tower needs to get their job taken away from them. That's incompetence right there. It's incompetence. If it's a designated conservation easement, it should be, they should have on their wall a huge map of the county. They should never have allowed that to happen, and it's an atrocity. I mean, I can't even believe this is happening. Thank you. Any questions? It's just ridiculous.
Ma'am, come on up. Not you. There's a hand in the back.
Sorry, my recorder got stuck, so I was trying to sync it up. I know this is a long show, but all right, take it away.
My biggest concern is just trying to figure out how this is less than DRI green space, because I have no access to it because it's fenced off. And
you don't say.
It is to be preserved, but not by Walton County. That this is sacred land and it needs to remain sacred. And I'm going to let the gentleman here explain.
Come on up, sir. State your name and spell your last name.
Now watch this guy. Now Tony has recognized this guy at the beginning of the meeting as the elected official over some nation. Here, he'll tell us.
My name is Chief Ghost Dancer.
Chief Ghost Dancer.
The Tribal Council of the Skokie Nation of Northwest Florida. I'm also here representing the Skokie Nation of Oklahoma, Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, Seminole Nation of the Skokie Nation of South Florida, who I've been on the phone with secondary this morning. First, let me state this. This is sacred land. It is to us.
How come he's getting the countdown, but the other woman wasn't, that's connected to Danny? That's what I mean about policy.
preserve it. Y'all did the right thing, you turned it over to a tribe existing for them to preserve it, but you put conditions where they're supposed to do this. It's really true, she didn't know it. Not just her, the ones before her, but not feel obligations of that trust.
Twist that seat, Tony.
Now she wants to sell it for money. For what? The violations have already occurred. Now you want to sell it to where it goes to somebody else. The taxpayers are supposed to pay for all of this.
Amen.
I think the county needs to repossess the land at $100 and give us the trust of it. When I say us, the native peoples. Because I can guarantee you this. I'm a Tuskegee SD, I'll tell you. Means I'm a red stick warrior. We're the last freedom of the state. We live right up the road. I spent my whole life dodging bounties on my head because I was native. I was the first one shot for praying in this state.
Shot for praying in the state. First one.
Most of the laws protecting this. Me and my wife was.
I have to say, Danny, this is one of the best things that you have ever brought before the BCC. If you want to know what a dumbass is, he's sitting there in a big yellow shirt right now, and his butthole's puckered so tight that a tractor couldn't pull a greasy string out of that damn thing. Go ahead, Big Chief.
So, dearly all over. Behind fighting to protect the Native American rights. But this is a history here, not just for natives, but for the history, the citizens here, the school children, the history. She said she didn't care about the community. That tells me right then and there she's not a traditionalist. Because traditionally, we care about all life and all people.
He's saying the other woman's ain't no good.
Speaking at behalf of I am the Archbishop of the Native American.
Danny, you're wanting to be the historian. From this day forward, amongst the BCC in modern times, this will be known as the Indian War that Danny Glidewell helped create. Congratulations, Danny.
The 8 states, which includes Florida, and we are chartered here in Florida, in Tallahassee. She said that she has the authority to sell that. She's operating under a 5013C. I'd like to see the minutes where they give the authority to sell that. As you all know, it's a 5013C. It's supposed to report your deeds. It has to be done legally. Not about the law. I wrote most native law there is. And appointed as counsel.
He wrote most native law there is, but he got the 501c right.
And this land is sold ever to outside people. And it's developed. That sacred land is violated. You'll see a massive amount of natives down here you would never see it before in your life. They have laws called NAGRA. They have the Native American Free Exercise Law. I wrote that law, Protection of Sacred Sites.
Policy doesn't apply. Well, he gets another 3 minutes.
You have to have access to that. Always. This year, in December, we're going to have all the war nations of every native tribe coming here. We brought Geronimo's family here last year and all the Gahan. That's the Holy Crown dancers. They are coming back. And we're bringing all the Lakota, all the Patriot, all the Moses Coast.
And with that, Danny opened a Diet Coke.
In South Florida, up here bring this for a ceremony. Where the graves of all of our ancestors are buried are unmarked.
Tony don't like this now. See, stack paper, act like I'm going to write, grab the gavel,
I use my PA money.
Act like I'm going to write.
For my people. Somebody to come up here and tell me they serve a tribal council. I serve the tribal council. I serve the nation. I save all of humanity. I'm going to serve the history of this place. That side there, she says there's nothing there because she's overweight there. She's never walked. She don't know how to talk. She don't know how to read. She can't read the land. She can't listen to the spirits because they don't talk to her. My people, that's what it does. It is so sacred to us that we have to ask y'all, please, do not let this happen. If this land must transfer to somebody, y'all have the authority because she's already reached that contract and y'all made an agreement for $100.
Amen.
Now she wants to sell it to you for however millions it is. Get it back to do whatever. Give it to us. I'll give you the $100 out of my pocket right now. And there won't be no desecration on that land ever. I promise you that. Right up here in Perdido, we have a sanctuary. Y'all probably heard of John Swap Reserve. We have a museum there. We got artifacts dating back thousands and thousands of years. We got clothing dating back over 300 years. You know, I put on classes, we go to school, a lot of military bases. We work with the state.
Praise God. Please, Tony, shut him down.
We bring other tribes here.
Clay's tired. Sir, Clay told me to tell you to sit down.
Consideration and ask you to listen to your own hearts. You know what you're doing. It ain't about no money. It's about protecting what's right.
And board members, we will certainly look into whether or not there is any opportunity to.
Clay wants to move on. He's like, please throw this grenade out the door. Danny's like, damn, that didn't work.
To our advantage in that scenario. Consider it, but I'm not seeing one to date in any of the 3 deeds that did this issue.
I know, Mr. Atkinson, are you saying it can't revert back to the county? Is that what you just said?
I'm saying that none of the 3 deeds I have reviewed indicate there has ever been an intention for there to be a reverter clause back to the county or alternatively back to the Boss Land Trust. Whether or not the restriction is still valid is something I'll research, and I did indicate that I would gladly research the ability to look at forfeiture revert, but typically reverter clauses require very
Pivot, Tony.
wording to be included, and those also are subject to expiration and operation of Florida law. None of these deeds contain anything that indicates the property would automatically revert to the county if it is not done. So that doesn't mean that there may not be other enforcement mechanisms. Certainly there's the issue of the DRI that has to be considered.
Oh, you don't say.
But on the face of the deeds do not contain any reverter clauses.
Okay, thank you. What I wanted to say is, when you hear quasi-judicial meetings or procedures, there has to be substantial evidence, you have to have an expert, you have to have someone in standing. This is not a quasi-judicial hearing, but the gentleman that you just heard from, I believe, has given you enough evidence to withdraw your second motion, and it could die right there. When you have 2 tribes standing in front of you arguing about this piece of precious property, I don't believe you as commissioners can make a decision today. If you decide to do something else and look at what Mr. Atkinson said, bring back some information, but I do not believe you need to vote on this today.
Tony wants her to sit down because she's intelligent.
Thank you.
I would not.
But you would be directing Stan Sunday to look into it.
Well, no. What I'm concerned about, this is the main thing I'm concerned about, is the woman came up and stated she believes these restrictions, the time that has run out. That's what I want to find out.
Because if it is, we're going to give them a bunch of money.
I don't think anybody up here wants this to a department to buy that. And if the restrictions, the deed restrictions, and everything we've done has run out, then we need to know that so we can continue to have those restrictions. I don't know how we're doing that, something that Mr. Atkinson was saying, but the worst thing that could happen is for a developer to buy it. Now, my concern is that Mr. Summers is a very well-known realtor.
Shut up, Tony. This is where Tony tries to give John Summers a reach around or some kind of crap. Listen, Tony, it's in the DRI. If the applicant who owns the boundaries of the DRI, Mr. Becknell, if it right now it's labeled as open space, archaeological preserve, according to what you've told me, that nobody can question Becknell. So if Becknell just simply doesn't apply for this to be something else, then nobody can do anything with it because it's in a DRI, Tony. But the only thing that means to you, Tony, is a lot of votes from big developers because you don't really understand the DRI, and this is just proof of it. So with that, I'm going to close with my final statements because this is a long show and it's got some crappy editing, but it's just too hard to do it again. So you just can't make this shit up. Danny Glidewell brought the biggest bunch of political bullshit you've ever seen. We just demonstrated that we don't know our ass from a hole in the ground, and that it's just unbelievable what people are trying to pull over the taxpayers' eyes. Tony Anderson and Danny Glidewell should be ashamed. I don't think Boots had anything to do with it. So we'll close with my final comments to the board that day.
You said public comments. Is this just on my bicycle thing, or are you talking?
This is public comment.
Okay. Because it sounded like you didn't. I didn't know you got all. You didn't say I don't have any. So you said I. Okay. They just I'm just making sure I'm talking under the right subject.
Yeah.
Okay. Public comments. I'll say this. I was going down by Lily's the other day, and four guys on electric bicycles. I agree with that man. You should punish everybody. But the fact is, four guys on bicycles, I had to slow down right there at Lily's. Those bicycles maintained the speed of 41 miles an hour paced with my car. They pulled into traffic and then they cut down the scenic 98. I don't care if they want to play natural selection and hurt themselves, but it is a liability issue. It is the capabilities where electric bicycles go. You shouldn't punish everybody, but we're going to have some guidelines for the people who abuse the privilege. Clearly, they'll be responsible employees of the firm. Secondly, there was a TV show that came out the other day that showed, it was yesterday. You better go look at it.
This is the Bay pollution issue.
About testing the fish coming out of the Choctawhatchee Bay. And some of those fish livers tested at more than 1,000 times the toxin levels.
1,000 times acceptable toxin levels in Choctawhatchee Bay fish.
Times of the limit. Some things may be 3,000. You have a serious problem, and you have pollution. Clay won't let me talk about Sandestin, so I'll talk about the LDC.
But he just did for 30 minutes.
Violated, in my opinion, by certain county staff. And I'd like to know that Mr. Sunday has the support of you guys to enforce all.
Look at the board. Nobody looks up. Not even Stan.
I have reported direct pipage into the bay and I've given you a PhD certified expert advice that you're meeting zero requirements of your own law. Let's throw the DRI out. Your LDC, you're not even retaining half the end.
Tony don't care.
You're making false applications. I made code complaints. I'll let Mr. Sunday know, and they were dismissed without the process being followed. And that, when employees choose to interfere with the process, then you've interfered with the right to fair treatment. And that's a problem. And I'll go back to that. One last thing here, I got 50 seconds. I don't think you should have a special master for stuff that's contested, and here's why.
Listen to why. That's what they want to do.
Elected representatives, and in the past, quasi-judicial things have been turned down because they were incompatible with that district, and those commissioners fought for that, and the other commissioners supported them. If there's a contested issue, are those citizens that disagree with it, are they going to have to go to Tallahassee with a lawyer to do something that they elect you to make the decisions on? I say wrong on that. I'm okay on the parking tickets and stuff, but when it comes to a matter of what affects the community, I think that responsibility lies square upon your shoulders to accept it, even if it's painful. That's what you ran for office, and a special magistrate can't consider the needs of a district, and that's your job.
See, 2 seconds, and Tony's gaveling me down. But other people, it just continues to go. Like I said, you can't make this shit up, but you can unelect it. Danny, Boots, Tony, no Nick. We can't have this kind of bullshit government. Hey, Stan, how about doing something on the things I pointed out on the staff? Or is it Tony won't let you? I don't know, but you, like I said, you can't make this up, but you can unelect it. Remember what I said, a government is only as fair as as the standard it's held accountable to. And right now, this group of people and some people in the county, and there's a lot of good people working in the county, but we sure have as citizens given them some poor leadership, and we need to give them better. Okay, there's 3 people right there in that picture that got to go 4 counting the fool in the blue jacket, and you know who I'm talking about. Until next time, you can't make this shit up on the Alan Osborne Show, but you can unelect it. See ya.